This is Pastor Tom once again talking about what's becoming one of my favorite topics, and that's doubt. You know, we're doing a series on doubt here at Church of the Four Seasons, and we hope that all of you will attend because I do believe that all of us have doubts. All of us have questions. That's normal. Look at the Psalms. The Psalms, 40% of the Psalms are about questions being raised to God. The parables themselves that Jesus used to teach were intricately woven questions drawn from the events and the realities of the world Jesus walked in. And so having a question is perfectly normal. But today I want to talk about how God uses questions to open our hearts. You know, many times when we are children, we take what anyone tells us. If a figure of authority tells us something is true, we believe it's true. If a figure of authority tells us something is false, we believe it's false. But then life starts to teach us other lessons. And that's where the idea of questions start to come. You know, we may think that life is all predictable, that life is going to be just the way we want it, and then suddenly our life is turned upside down. A sudden loss, a sudden broken heart, a change in our circumstances, and we inevitably will question God. Well, those moments when life does not seem to work the way we want it to work, those moments when our questions seem to outweigh our facts, those moments when we really feel compelled to cry out to God, why is this happening? Those are the moments that God is closest to you. Those are moments of grace. Now, we use that word a lot, particularly in our Wesleyan tradition, but grace at its bare essence is simply the way that God relates to human history. And when we open our heart in a question, why did this happen? How am I supposed to go on? What does my life mean? God's grace or God's relationship with you is the strongest. Think about human relationships. Do our human relationships ever grow if we don't question the other person, if we don't get to know more about them, if we don't get to understand their very psyche, their very soul, what drives them emotionally? Well, the same is true of God. So when we have a question, let's not look at it as a denial of God. Let's look at it as an opening to God's grace working on your heart in amazing ways. God's grace opening your heart to God's strength, God's wisdom, God's hope, God's joy, all of those things that are part of God's promises. So never fear a question. You know, a great theologian said many, many years ago that at one time he had great doubt in his faith. But then as he began to realize the beauty of a question, the beauty of a doubt as an avenue for God's grace to touch a heart, he could easily say, now I have faith in my doubts. That's part of being a Christian. That's part of being a human. That's part of being in this divine human conversation that we call faith. We hope you will join us this Sunday as we continue to value questions to God. May God bless, take care, and we'll see you in church.